Hey Harmonizers, I'm going to take you on a trail ride through the Bryce Canyon while we were there. It's actually a section called the Slots Canyon and it's super cool. Almost looks like we're in a cartoon area. But first off, let's show you how we got there. So after our super late night arriving at 5 in the morning, we had a short sleep, got up, had a buffet breakfast at this gorgeous hotel that we stayed at called Ruth Inn. They had an indoor swimming pool, so we took Ev for a little swim just before lunchtime, before we headed out. And we were not really sure how we were going to do this because there were mules available to ride. And Franny really wanted to ride a mule, but I really wanted to ride my own horse. And we knew that it was going to be a bit rocky, but I had scoot boots that I could put on her feet. And before we headed out, there was a lot of kind of talk about, should I take Alicia? Should I not take Alicia? How's it going to go with leaving Nova behind? And I decided, you know what? Let's just bring Alicia. I'm here. I don't know when I'll next get back to Utah and be able to do this. So we headed off to the barn to go get our horses. It's gorgeous. You can see all of these canyons that we were driving by along the way, all of this gorgeous landscape. It just changes. Every time you turn a corner, it all looks different. And what I didn't know when I signed up to do this is that Alicia would be getting on the trailer with the mules and driving to where we had to go. And where we were headed is actually a section of land owned by the BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management, which is the same government agency that manages the wild mustangs. So I thought that's super awesome to be able to do that. So here's a little look at Alicia at the trailer after getting off with the mules. So we drove out there, him with his truck and trailer, and we all kind of loaded up together. And this was super awesome because everybody on our entire trip was able to come on this ride. So we've got little Ev up front. My little 3-year-old Evelyn is getting ponied by the trail guide. And then everybody else behind me there, Franny, Sarah, and Rita, everybody on mules. Franny really wanted to ride a mule, so she left Nova behind. And this was the thing that I was so impressed about Alicia with. One of Alicia's main triggers has been emotional control related to other horses. And so leaving Nova behind, with Nova calling, her having to get on the trailer with these strange mules that she's never met before, coming to this place where we had to just like tack up and go. There wasn't time to do a lot of groundwork. There wasn't even really space to do a lot of groundwork. It's kind of hit the trail and get going. And old Alicia, Dragon Alicia, would have completely blown up and had a complete meltdown, would have had an outburst, leaping in the air, unable to cope. But this Alicia is able to stay calm, stay focused, keep her emotions in check. I could feel she was elevated. We had a lot of spring in her step. I could feel that she was a little excited. And here we're doing little bits of trots as we go up a hill or to catch up or something like that. But for the most part, we walked the whole trail, which I think was really good for her benefit, at least to start. Now here, what I'm pointing at are something really cool. There's hieroglyphics up here. So see if you can spot the animal in the rock. Isn't that super amazing? Because these canyons, the water has slowly worn away over time and made them deeper and deeper. And so way back when, the ground level would have been much higher, and so that's where those hieroglyphics were, and then it's worn down over time, and now they're way up in the air when they wouldn't have been way back when. They would have been at ground level. So I thought that's pretty awesome. And we're doing all of this terrain crossing through water, up and down some hills, and Alicia's doing amazing. And definitely that bouncy trot to start with, or that bouncy elevated walk. I could feel she was a little bit, tense, but she held it together. I was so impressed that she was able to do all of this and just stay calm. And the longer the trail ride went, the calmer she got. Of course, it was a little tiring as well. This is a longer ride than what we typically do. It's about 2.5 hours. And there's a lot of terrain changes, a lot of crossing this little river that's through the whole area. Super interesting with this little river. He was saying that it's very sensitive to flooding. And if there's rain, you really have to go with somebody who knows your stuff and knows the area, because it might not even be raining where you are. But if it rains up ahead that's upstream and it's coming down, this little stream can go from being what it looks like now to being like 5-10 feet of water, and it can be like a flash flood through this area, and the water can just come so fast. And he said it can be really, really dangerous, especially depending on where you are in the canyon. You have to like get out of Dodge, get out, and you might not be able to leave where you are. Like if we were to climb up the hill on the side, we might not even be able to leave that area until hours and hours or even a day has passed to let this area clear out. So we were pretty fortunate that we came at a good time of year, a good day, that it wasn't flooded out, and we were able to go for a ride here. And I thought that was just super interesting to be aware of the different dangers, because where I am in Ontario, Canada, there isn't anywhere like that I'm aware of where you'd have to be worried about something like that. So this is pretty awesome. This is the entrance to the Slots Canyons. Super amazing. It honestly looks like we're riding in a cartoon. It looks pretty neat. So he stopped here and we did individual photos of everybody. You can see Rita's getting a photo there. With our guide taking the camera. So we were pretty fortunate that we were able to have a private tour just of our group. He figured since we had a little 3-year-old coming with us, you can see our pictures here, me and Ev with her mule that she was riding, because we had little Evelyn and because I was riding my own horse, we were able to get our own tour instead, which was super amazing that we were able to sneak that in. Here's a little look inside the Slots Canyons. It's pretty narrow and totally unlike anything I've ever ridden through before. If you ever are able to get out to the Bryce Canyon area in Utah, I definitely recommend checking this place out. It was run by the same company that does the Bryce Canyon Inn. So it's all the same person. And we were really fortunate. Normally, I guess they only do morning tours. And because we had reached out and we had been messaging them, we were able to get our own tour in the afternoon. And I'm so grateful. These views are just incredible. And the terrain that we went through, the test that we got to do. As we're doing all of this, you might notice it's pretty rocky, and you might be thinking, how were you able to do that? Especially because my horses are barefoot, and he's got all of his mules are fully shod all 4 feet, and Lissy is completely barefoot. So I actually have scoot boots on her on all 4 feet. I'll show you a little video clip once we get more towards the end of the video. I'll show you what those scoot boots look like. Essentially, the scoot boots are kind of like a shoe that goes on the horse. It's like a little barefoot boot, so she can stay barefoot, and she just wears it like we would wear a shoe. She just puts it on as a little boot, and they stayed on through all of this terrain. And you can see it's pretty wet and mucky in here. There were points where we walked right through the water. We walked through the water a lot. Lots of rocky area, some muddy area. You can see the terrain's all changing. This was so incredible. Just getting to watch the footage back and see how beautiful it was and how changing it was. I thought it was so funny. Evelyn, as we start going along, starts just totally not riding with hands or stirrups. Her feet kept falling out of the stirrups anyways because she was too short. And so then by the end of the ride, she's like, no hands, no stirrups, just kind of cruising along. And she did amazing, being 3 years old, almost 4 years old, but she's just cruising along and doing the whole trail. She was a little trooper. You can see Alicia there going through lots of the water, the canyons, and even just old Alicia being able to fall behind like this and get left behind, so to speak, on the trail would have been an emotional trigger for her in the past. And it just goes to show all that work we've been doing to build our connection, to build our trust, to build her confidence has been paying off. And so if you've got a horse out there that struggles with their emotional control, hopefully this can give you a little bit of inspiration that they can change, because you just have to go back a year in my videos of Alicia and you will see lots and lots of dragon moments of her having emotional outbursts because she would feel overwhelmed and she didn't really know how to channel that and focus that. And now she's just become so steady Eddie. Like I felt like I could go anywhere with her. I felt like I had 100% of her brain power. You can see little Ev reaching out, touching the rocks in the canyon. She thought it was super cool. It'll be interesting to see if she remembers this when she gets older, being nearly 4 years old. You can see her coming around, me coming around some of the corners there. There were some really, really tight spots where it's like, oh, you better watch where your knee is as you're coming around that. And there's even some spots where we had to duck to go under some of the rocks that were jutting out or some logs that were overhead. And what's super cool coming up is you can see we're down here in the canyon riding with the water on the ground floor. And in a little bit, we're going to be getting up above and we're going to be riding at the top on the edge of this canyon, which is pretty cool as well. So here's one of the spots where you kind of have to duck as you're coming around that corner because of the way that it comes out. And here's a little look. Now we're riding up above and you can see the canyon is just down below us, down in that crack. And it's like, ooh, like that's pretty close there. It's a bit of a drop. So we're trusting that our horses are going to follow the path and know where they're headed. And they're doing a really great job. And for the most part, it was just kind of a leisurely walking ride. And then there's some spots where we end up going up some pretty steep hills that were so steep that we actually had to give the horses and mules a pause during that whole piece. So I just sped up this video footage here in double the speed just so you could get a feel for how the terrain was changing. You could see a little bit of the beauty, how you turn the different corners, and it's like a whole new landscape. It was absolutely beautiful. And for the most part, we're just walking along, and every so often I do a little bit of trotting to catch up or things like that. Like there you can see you do a little trot to catch up. And kind of neat that sometimes we're going under these areas with these massive cliffs and then coming through these wider spots of the canyon and then turning the corner and now you're kind of in open forest area. So it's all different. And the colors were changing too. Sometimes there were some red canyons, sometimes they were a little bit more brown. Sometimes there were some white canyon areas. That was pretty cool. And this is a little look here at one of the really steep hills. So we're climbing up this hill. We're going to get to a really awesome lookout point in a second. And so we're making the climb up these hills, and there was some halfway marks where we would have to stop. And I was like, oh my goodness, if we keep this up, I'm going to have to be walking Alicia in hand because we are not conditioned to do a lot of hill work. And so it's definitely something that you have to be careful with when you're out with horses. They will try so hard for you that they'll actually cause their muscles to tie up or to get cramps and can make themselves really sore. So you really want to be careful that you're not going to do that to your horse. And hill work is really hard. Going up and down hills is absolutely exhausting. And for the most part, we didn't have any until kind of the end of the trail as we're looping our way back around. And then there was lots of, quite a few hills that we had to do. And I had to keep asking the guide, I'm like, okay, like how many more do you think there is? And then of course we paused sometimes, like we got to the top of the hill and there's this beautiful lookout with some of the different mountains and canyons in the distance that we stopped at. So that gave the horses a little bit of a chance to get a bit of a break, which was really nice. And then this is a really pretty spot here. And then as we're coming along one of our last hills, and I'm like, okay, like, are we getting close? And he's like, yeah, we're getting close. And once we got a little bit closer, I actually dismount Alicia and walked her the last hill home and just did it on foot. Because I just didn't want her to get to a place where she became sore. And she's been so amazing being able to handle coming out here with the mules and not being upset or anything like that. The last thing I wanted was for her to get muscle sore or have something happen out of fatigue and then it end up being a bad experience. So here you can see little Ev with her no stirrups going along, being ponied the whole way. So she's just cruising. She said she really loved the Western, getting to have the horn to hold on to, which is pretty fun. And we've got Franny and then Sarah and Rita as well in the back. And here's just a totally different landscape now as we're heading back towards the trailer area. You can see now there's some more white rock. And we were told that the color of the rock actually tells you a little bit about the mineral that's in the rock. And so when we see this whiter rock, that's different from the yellow. So you can see the yellow now ahead. Apparently that has more sulfur in it, whereas the red rock has more iron in it. So the different rock colors are actually the different minerals. So I thought that was pretty neat to see that as well. You can see Rita riding down the hill and the other girls in the distance. So here you can see it's a lot more red and we're getting into those oranges. So it was constantly changing landscape as we're going through. It was absolutely beautiful. I would definitely go back. It was kind of sad that we only had this one ride that we were able to do. I could definitely see why people take their horses and they go for an entire week and camp out. And he was saying that he'll have groups come and they'll just camp out at the place. Here's the scoop boots, and they'll stay there for an entire week. So here's Lissy getting back on the trailer with the mules. Look at her. She's such a great girl. She's just like, yep, I'm one with the mules now. And she just gets on the trailer. It's a smaller or like a shorter trailer than my trailer, but she goes up and she ties with the mules, and she was totally okay. And as we drive back towards the hotel, you get a couple really good views of some of the mountains in the distance. So apparently this particular area here, I forget what the name of the mountain is, but this is a different trail ride that you can do, and you can actually ride to the top of that mountain. I'm not sure if Alicia would be as excited to do that as I would, but looks like it would be pretty awesome for a future adventure. And we wrapped up the day with having this amazing coconut cream pie. It was so delicious, so creamy and buttery. It was absolutely amazing and a great way to finish off the day. So hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.